Hi students, I'm Dr. Bhavana. In this lecture, we are going to deal with breathing and exchange of gases. So what is breathing? Exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere and CO2 that is produced by the lungs is known as breathing. Oxygen is utilized to break down complex molecules like glucose, amino acids into simpler substances to derive energy. So this oxygen is very important for all of us. In human respiratory system, lungs play a very important role. We think only lungs does not play. There are so many other organs which play important role in human respiratory system. First, before going to human respiratory system, first in terrestrial forms like earthworm. In earthworm, the respiratory organ is moist cuticle. Means the body surface itself is a respiratory organ. Whereas for fishes, gills play an important role in respiration. Whereas for amphibians like frogs, there are two respiratory organs. That is, one is body surface, the other one is lung. Why there are two respiratory organs in amphibians like frogs? Because in aquatic places, the body surface plays a very important role in respiration, whereas in terrestrial forms, these lungs play an important role. Now we are going to deal with human respiratory system. In human respiratory system, we all learned that lungs play a very important role. First, how air enters. First, air enters through nose, then into pharynx, then it enters into larynx. Larynx is also known as voice box. Here sound production takes place. Whereas in larynx, food is prevented from entering into larynx through epiglottis. Epiglottis is flap-like structure which play an important role in prevention of entry of food into the larynx. From larynx, the air enters into trachea. We all learnt about trachea. Trachea is bounded by C-shaped cartilaginous rings. These C-shaped cartilaginous rings, they prevent the collapse of the trachea. These are C-shaped cartilaginous rings. These prevent collapse of trachea. Collapse of trachea means trachea does not fall down. Why? Because of these C-shaped cartilaginous rings. So from trachea, these enter, this trachea divides into bronchi at the level of 5th thoracic vertebrae. 5th thoracic vertebrae. It divides into bronchi. This is an important NEET question. At which thoracic vertebrae it divides into bronchi? So at the level of 5th thoracic vertebrae, it divides into bronchi. These are the lungs. These bronchi are again divided into bronchioles. These bronchioles are again divided into tertiary bronchioles. Finally, these end up in vascularized bag-like structures called as alveoli. So what we have learned? First, air enters from nose into pharynx, then into larynx, then into trachea. In trachea, at the level of 5th thoracic vertebrae, these are divided into bronchi. These bronchi are in turn divided into bronchioles. There are primary bronchioles, tertiary bronchioles. These bronchioles are again divided into tertiary bronchioles. Finally, they end up in vascularized bag-like structures called as alveoli. From nose till the bronchioles, this constitutes the conducting part. This only the alveoli as well as their ducts, this contribute the respiratory part. Why there are two different conducting part as well as respiratory part? Conducting part, it does not play any important role in respiration. Only it prevents all the foreign particles which enter the body are purified in this conducting part. In respiratory part, here original exchange of gases takes place. That is in alveoli and as well as ducts. Here exchange of gases takes place between the air as well as the blood. So this is about the human respiratory system. Next we are going to deal with anatomy of the lung. This is a lung. Outside it is covered by pleural membrane. This is outer pleural membrane as well as this is inner pleural membrane. Pleural membrane. In between these two membranes, there is pleural fluid which is present. Pleural fluid. This pleural fluid reduces the friction in between the lungs. In between the two lungs, in between the two pleural membranes, this pleural fluid is present. It reduces the friction between the lungs. So this is outer pleural and this is inner pleural. Where is lung located? It is located in thoracic chamber. In between the two lungs. This is right lung and suppose this is left lung. In between the two lungs, the heart is present. Heart. This fully situated in thoracic chamber. Thoracic chamber. So next, dorsally, how it is bounded? This lung, dorsally it is bounded by vertebral column. They'll ask in the NEET, dorsally how it is bounded? Dorsally it is by vertebral column. On the lower side of the lung, what is present on the lower side of the lung? Diaphragm is present. Whereas on the lateral sides, ribs as well as sternum. Ribs and sternum. Here, respiratory muscles are also present near the ribs and sternum. That is, internal intercostal as well as external intercostal muscles are present near the ribs and sternum. So this is about the anatomy of the lung. First, where it is situated? It is situated in the thoracic chamber. In between the two lungs, heart is situated. Then lung is bounded outside by outer pleural membrane, inner by inner pleural membrane. Outside it is lined by thoracic lining. Then in between the two pleural membranes, pleural fluid is present. What is the use of this pleural fluid? It reduces the friction in between the lungs. Dorsally bounded by vertebral column. On lower side of the lung, there is diaphragm which is present. As well as on the lateral side, there are ribs and sternum. External intercostal muscles as well as internal intercostal muscles, which are the muscles of respiration, are situated near the ribs and sternum. So this is about the anatomy of the lung. Next we will deal with mechanisms of breathing. Mechanisms of breathing. There are two mechanisms of breathing, that is inspiration as well as expiration. These two play an important role, inspiration as well as expiration. As we all have studied till now, that it is dorsally by vertebral column, laterally by ribs and sternum. Next on the lower side by diaphragm. So this is a lung, the cross-sectional view of the lung. Now in inspiration, what happens? What is inspiration? If pressure within the lungs is very less than atmospheric pressure, means pressure within the lungs is very less, then inspiration takes place. What about expiration? When pressure within the lungs is high, then we exhale, that is expiration. So this is about inspiration and expiration. Now we will deal with mechanisms of inspiration and expiration. In mechanisms, first, diaphragm in inspiration gets contracted. Diaphragm gets contracted. When the diaphragm gets contracted, the ribs and sternum are pulled away. That is, they also get contracted. How they get contracted? They get contracted by external and internal intercostal muscles. So how ribs and sternum get contracted? Ribs and sternum get contracted by external and internal intercostal muscles. What are these muscles? These are the muscles which play an important role in respiration. So external intercostal and internal intercostal muscles, they play a very important role in respiration. Here the diaphragm gets contracted, whereas ribs and sternum also get contracted. This results in increase in volume of the thorax. There will be increase in volume of the thorax. When the volume of thorax increases, this increases the pulmonary volume. Means this get expanded. Pulmonary volume also increases. This in turn results in decrease in intrapulmonary pressure. As we all learned that for inspiration, there should be less lung pressure. So this will be decrease in intrapulmonary pressure. So inspiration takes place. First, initially in inspiration, diaphragm gets contracted. Then ribs and sternum get contracted. Here ribs and sternum are pulled away. This results in increase in volume of the thorax, which increases pulmonary volume. There is decrease in intrapulmonary pressure. All will be increased here. All will get contracted. Everything will be increased. Only there will be decrease in intrapulmonary pressure. Next, like this only will deal with expiration also. For expiration, diaphragm, instead of getting contracted, here it gets relaxed. Here it gets relaxed. So these ribs and sternum are also relaxed. These external intercostal muscles as well as internal intercostal muscles. So external and internal intercostal muscles are also relaxed. Then this leads to decrease in volume of the thorax. Volume of thorax also decreases. This results in decrease in pulmonary volume. Means the lungs does not get expanded. This will result in decrease in pulmonary volume. This results in increase in intrapulmonary pressure. So like this, expiration takes place. There will be increase in intrapulmonary pressure. Here also all are relaxed. Diaphragm initially it gets relaxed. Ribs and sternum and muscles are relaxed. This leads to decrease in volume of the thorax. This decreases pulmonary volume. there will be only increase in intrapulmonary pressure in expiration, whereas in inspiration only this will get decreased, intrapulmonary pressure, whereas in expiration only intrapulmonary pressure is increased. So this is about all inspiration and expiration. Normally a human adult can breathe for 12 to 16 times per minute. This is an important neat question. How many times a person can breathe per minute? 12 to 16 times per minute. How do we measure this? This is measured through an apparatus known as spirometer. They'll give you options like sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer is for BP. Spirometer is for respiration. How do we measure the breathing is by spirometer. Next we are going to deal with respiratory volumes. Respiratory volumes. In respiratory volumes, you should remember and by heart these respiratory volumes. First, initially, that is tidal volume. Here, so many neat questions are asked based on this. So, this you should by heart this because these so many numericals will be present here. Initially, what is tidal volume? Tidal volume is volume of air inspired or expired. Means how much we take or how much we inhale or how much we exhale. That is known as tidal volume. So, the numerical is how much we breathe. Means 500 ml per minute. Tidal volume is 500 ml. Next, inspiratory reserve volume. What is inspiratory reserve volume? In inspiratory reserve volume, it is additional amount of air that a person can inspire after forced inspiration. Forced inspiration, additional volume, not the volume which you inhale. This is additional volume of air. Additional volume, see in this name only it is given. Inspiratory reserve volume means how much we inspire, that is how much we inhale, that is additional volume of air through forced inspiration. These 2 points are important, additional volume as well as forced inspiration. Next we'll come to expiratory reserve volume. Here also it is self-explanatory. How? Additional volume of air, see expiratory reserve volume. Here also additional volume that a person can expire, means exhale, means give out, is through forced expiration. Forced, these 2 points you should remember, forced inspiration, forced expiration. Next, it is residual volume. Volume after forced expiration, how much you exhale. Volume that is present in the lungs, left over in the lungs is residual volume. How much is left in the lungs after forced expiration. After forced expiration is residual volume. So first, tidal volume. Volume of air inspired or expired is tidal volume. It is about 500 ml. Inspiratory reserve volume. Additional volume of air through forced inspiration, that a person can inspire through forced. Here also expiratory reserve volume. Additional volume through forced expiration. Residual volume, volume that is left over in the lungs through after forced expiration is residual volume. So these are, see first for tidal volume it is about 500 ml. What about inspiratory reserve volume? See this is important neat question. numericals you should remember, it is about 2000 to 3000 ml. Whereas for expiratory reserve volume, it is about 1000 ml. Whereas for residual volume, it is 1000 ml. Here 1000 to 1100, here also 1000, you can remember like this, 500, 2000, both are 1000 to 1100. These are the 4 volumes for forced expirations and inspirations. Next we'll deal with normal ones, that is not forced ones, through normal expirations and inspirations. So next, inspiratory capacity. Volume that a person can inspire after normal expiration. See, this is normal. Before we have dealt with forced one. Next, expiratory capacity. Here also, this also is after normal expiration. How much it is present? That is through normal expiration. Next, functional residual capacity. What is functional residual capacity? It is equal to residual volume. That is volume of the air that is present after forced expiration. Here volume that is present in the lungs, volume present in the lungs after normal expiration. Normal. See, before we have dealt with forced, all forced. Here, these are normal expirations and inspirations. Functional residual capacity. See, we have a formula like inspiratory capacity. How is inspiratory capacity measured? Before we have dealt with tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, as well as residual volume. Inspiratory capacity, how we measure? If we take addition of tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume, that is inspiratory capacity. So tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume give rise to inspiratory capacity. How much we told? Tidal volume is 500 ml. Inspiratory is, before I have told you, inspiratory is 2000. Expiratory is 1000. Whereas residual volume is 1000 ml. So we should take addition of this tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume. That is 500 plus 2000. 2500 ml. So you should calculate like this. By knowing what all we should add. For expiratory capacity, tidal volume plus, see these two, expiratory reserve volume. Then we should add functional residual capacity. It is by expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume. This is functional residual capacity. Next, there are two important things. These two they will ask in NEET. See, that is vital capacity as well as total lung capacity. For vital capacity, we should add all these. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume. These three constitute vital capacity. Whereas tidal volume, inspiratory, expiratory as well as residual, these four constitute total lung capacity. Vital capacity, these three, first three. Total lung capacity, all of them. If they ask you in numericals how many ml, you should add all these and give total lung capacity. For vital capacity, the first three you should add 500, 2000 as well as 1000 and give you vital capacity. Here, based on this concept, there are so many questions which are asked in NEET. So these all you should remember perfectly. So I'll give you a brief introduction about again all these respiratory volumes. See, tidal volume, volume of air inspired or expired is tidal volume, that is about 500 ml. Inspiratory reserve volume, through forced additional volume that a person can inspire, self-explanatory, inspiration. So through forced inspiration is inspiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume through forced expiration. Whereas residual volume is volume that is remaining in the lungs after forced. These all are through forced. Next we'll come to inspiratory capacity. This is through normal inspiration. This is through normal expiration, expiratory capacity. Functional residual capacity, volume that is remaining in the lungs after normal expiration. This is through forced, this is through normal. These three are through normal. So how do we measure this? Tidal volume plus inspiratory give rise to inspiratory capacity. Expiratory capacity is through tidal volume as well as expiratory reserve volume. First two, inspiratory capacity, for 1 and 3, expiratory capacity. Functional residual capacity, expiratory plus residual volume. These you should addition and make the volumes, how much volumes you get. Finally, we have dealt with vital capacity as well as total lung capacity. In vital capacity, tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume as well as expiratory reserve volume. These three contribute to vital capacity. Total lung capacity means these all four. All four addition 500, 2000, 1000 and 1000 ml. So this is about the respiratory volumes. Next we are going to deal with exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. What are the two gases which we know? That is oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. Where do actually this exchange of gases takes place? This exchange of gases takes place in between the alveoli and tissues. That is, to be more precise, between the alveoli as well as RBC. Alveoli and RBC. This oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange of gases takes place. See here, the important point is solubility of carbon dioxide is how many times greater than that of oxygen. Means carbon dioxide is readily soluble. But how many times it is soluble? Solubility of carbon dioxide, important question, please note down. Solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times greater than that of oxygen. Greater than that of oxygen. Solubility of carbon dioxide. And here, this is lung. That is alveoli. Alveoli is bounded by squamous epithelium. This is squamous epithelium. We all have learned that it is lined by squamous epithelium, the lung. In between here, these are the capillaries. These are the capillaries and this is alveoli. In between the alveoli as well as capillaries, there is basement membrane. In between the lung as well as between the capillaries, there is basement membrane which is present. In between these two, how the exchange of gases takes place? Exchange of gases takes place by a process known as simple diffusion. Only through diffusion this oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported. Here exchange of gases takes place by simple process known as diffusion. Here through diffusion only, directly between the alveoli and capillaries, this exchange of gases takes place. Next we are going to deal with, so this is about the exchange of gases. Initially oxygen and carbon dioxide between alveoli as well as tissues. Solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times than that of oxygen. Next, squamous epithelium is lined, for alveoli squamous epithelium is lined, and here the capillaries are present. In between these two, basement membrane is present. So through simple diffusion, here exchange of gases takes place. Next we are going to deal with transportation of gases. How these gases are transported. Here through simple diffusion we understood exchange takes place. Now how the transport takes place from one place to another in our body. Transport of gases. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are mainly transported. First, oxygen, it is 97% of oxygen is transported by RBC, that is red blood cells. Only 3% is transported by plasma. Oxygen 97% is through red blood cells only. Only 3% is through plasma. Next, when it comes to carbon dioxide, 70% majority takes place by bicarbonates. Only 7% is by plasma. What about the rest 20 to 30%? These numericals are important. 20 to 30% takes place by RBCs. Here oxygen 97% means maximum is transported through red blood cells. Only 3% is by plasma. Whereas carbon dioxide 70% is by bicarbonates. 20 to 30 is by RBC. Only 7% is by plasma. Next, we'll deal in detail how this oxygen transportation takes place. In this oxygen transportation, this question will be frequently asked in NEET. See, this is percentage saturation of hemoglobin. Percentage saturation of hemoglobin, this curve, and this is partial pressure of oxygen. In percentage saturation of hemoglobin, here there is sigmoid curve. We say it as sigmoid curve. Here 20, 40 on x-axis as well as y-axis. We take some partial pressures as 20 and 40. Here there will be a sigmoid curve that is formed. So in this curve, if the curve shifts to the right, curve shifts to the right only in the alveoli. Curve shifts to the left in tissues. Means in lungs, the curve will shift to the right. Whereas in tissues, it will shift to the left. If the curve shifts to the right, then what all will be increased? Only the partial pressure of oxygen, only PO2 is increased. Rest all decreases. Carbon dioxide will be decreased. Less temperature will be there. Less hydrogen, less pH, everything will be decreased in lungs. When the curve shifts to the right, only the partial pressure of oxygen is increased. Whereas in tissues, here only partial pressure of oxygen is decreased. Rest all will be increased. Carbon dioxide will be increased. There will be high temperature, high amount of hydrogen, H plus, everything will be increased. So this is about the curve, percentage saturation of hemoglobin as well as partial pressure of oxygen. So here, if the curve shift, this curve is called as sigmoid curve. That is percentage saturation of hemoglobin with partial pressures of oxygen. If it shifts to the right in lungs, then oxygen is increased, rest all are decreased. Only you remember, only oxygen is increased. In tissues, only oxygen is decreased, rest all will be increased. This is about the about oxygen. Next we are dealing with about carbon dioxide, how the transportation takes place. Whereas in carbon dioxide is combined with water to form H2CO3. This H2CO3 is again broken down into H plus plus HCO3 minus, that is bicarbonates. So this carbon dioxide plus oxygen, it takes place in the lungs. Whereas here H2CO3, it is broken down into H plus plus HCO3 minus. This takes place in tissues. They'll ask where the carbon dioxide and water are combined. Carbon dioxide and water are combined to form bicarbonates in lungs. Whereas again they are split into H plus and HCO3 minus in tissues. Like this exchange, transportation of gases takes place in carbon dioxide, through carbon dioxide. Before we have dealt with oxygen, now we dealt with carbon dioxide. So next we'll deal with partial pressures. That is also based on numericals, how the partial pressures in the lungs as well as tissues are present. These are numericals which will be asked in NEET. This is an additional information which I am giving you. These numericals, those about respiratory volumes, those numericals are important. Here also partial pressures of oxygen and carbon dioxide are also important. First, we'll write where it all takes place. First, atmospheric air. How much partial pressure of oxygen is present in atmospheric air? Next, deoxygenated blood. First, alveoli we write. That is in lungs. Next, deoxygenated blood. Next, oxygenated blood. Finally, in tissues. See, you should remember this in this order so that it will be easy for you for remembrance. See, atmospheric air, alveoli, deoxygenated blood, oxygenated blood, tissues. Air, lungs, blood, tissues. Here, 159. This is the partial pressure of oxygen in the atmospheric air, 159. In alveoli, it is 104. Whereas in deoxygenated blood, 40. 95 in oxygenated blood. Tissues, 40. You should remember like 159, 104, 40, 95, 40. If you remember the sequence, this will be very easy for you. Next for, this is about oxygen. Next for carbon dioxide, 0.3. That is, here all are, this is the smallest one, 0.3. Next, 40, 45, again 40, again 45. For easy remembrance, I have made this chart like this. For easy, you can remember 40, 40, 95, 40, 40, 45, 40, 45. These three you should remember, 159, 104. Like, so many NEET questions are asked in the previous years. Like what is the partial pressure of oxygen in the atmospheric air? Then you should say 159. Suddenly they'll randomly ask, what is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in deoxygenated blood? Then you should say 45. Then they'll ask in tissues, 40 and 45. Mainly they'll ask in atmosphere, alveoli as well as tissues. 104, 40, 40, 45. But all also you should remember. So this is about the partial pressures of oxygen and carbon dioxide. These numericals are very important, so note down these and remember in this sequence itself: air, lungs, blood, tissues. 159, 104, 40, 95, 40, 0.3, 40, 45, 40, 45. So for this is about the partial pressures. Next, where is the respiratory center present in our body? Means respiratory center means we all will think about lungs, but that is not the main mechanism where respiratory center is present. It is exactly located in the medulla region of the brain. Medulla. In the medulla region of the brain, this respiratory center is present. Then in pons we say. Pons is also called as pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center that is present in the brain, which to play an important role in the respiration in the brain, means medulla as well as pons. These two play an important role in respiration. Not only lungs we say, brain also there should be some effect. Then only there will be the respiration will build up. So this is about the where is the respiratory center present, means you should say medulla region of the brain, which is the pneumotaxic center, means that is pons. See, P and P, pons, pneumotaxic center. Then in medulla also the chemotactic area is present, where it is sensitive to hydrogen as well as carbon dioxide. This medulla is sensitive to hydrogen as well as carbon dioxide, means rapidly they are absorbed in medulla as well as pons. Next, what are the disorders associated with the respiratory system? So we all see so many people smoking, as well as these in turn affect the lungs. So how these affect? What are the disorders which are associated with respiratory system? So disorders associated with respiratory system. First, which comes to our mind is asthma. The main respiratory disorder is asthma. What is asthma? It causes difficulty in breathing. It causes difficulty in breathing. Asthma. Next, the important is emphysema. So many people smoke. So many people like smoke. So this leads to inflammation of bronchi as well as bronchioles. Inflammation of bronchi as well as bronchioles. Mostly it is seen in smokers. There are many other disorders also like COPD, that is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. There are many other disorders, but mainly they'll ask you about asthma and emphysema. Which disorder leads to inflammation of bronchi? Means you should say that is emphysema. And they'll ask other question also in smokers, which disease is most common? In smokers, emphysema is common. That leads to inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. Asthma, it will cause difficulty in breathing. It is not associated that only who smoke will get asthma, nothing like that. So many people will suffer due to difficulty in breathing, they will suffer from asthma. But mainly for smokers, it is emphysema. In chronic obstructive pulmonary disease also, it is mostly associated with smokers as well as those who consume alcohol. Mainly in all these, there is only one respiratory organ which is affected, that is nothing but lungs. So this is about the brief of all the disorders of the respiratory system, as well as today we will wind up with this disorders of respiratory system.